Hey, how's it going? I'm Andy Burns. I'm the editor-in-chief of BiffBamPop.com. This is the 2014 edition of the Biff Bam Pop Halloween Popcast. We are joined by an illustrious crew from basements, bedrooms, living rooms across North America. And it's actually nice to say that. It's not like just a bunch of people hanging out in Toronto talking shit. We are from all over the place. And as always, the Biff Bam Popcast is brought to you by something cool. And in this case, it's our own Marie Gilbert's Roof Oasis.
Thank you.
Marie, I understand that you're book signing this evening. Is that right?
Yes. In our town, we have a little shop called Steampunk Works. And Lee and Ralph run the shop. They design the clothing, accessories, and it's also, thank you, Glenn, it's also it's also an antique shop too. So they make clothing for a lot of the independent movies.
Oh, cool.
So they were doing a big Halloween sale outside and said I could come and sell my books. So I went and I sold 3, which was good because it wasn't that big of a crowd on Merchant Street. So I got to sell 3. I was just telling Andy, I said, you kind of feel like a prostitute when you're an author because you got to get out there and sell the books. And the only way you could do it is a lot of times book signing.
Well, Marie, it depends on what you're wearing.
Well, right now I'm dressed, but earlier I was dressed in my steampunk outfit, so one of my modified steampunk outfits.
Well, Marie, I'm totally getting ready to whore myself out there come February.
Well,
so all good.
I can give you some pointers.
So. On that note, let's introduce everyone that's part of the Biff Bam Popcast tonight. Of course, our steampunk granny, Ms. Marie Gilbert. Awesome to have you here. I think this is our first one with you, so thank you. All the way from the mean streets of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Ms. Amanda Blue. How's it going, Amanda?
It's good. It's cold here today. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it's snowing, right?
Not snowing today, but it's still pretty chilly. So.
Oh. Week. And then the senior, what am I calling you these days, Glenn?
Fetch. I don't know.
The senior editor for Biff Bam Pop, Mr. Glenn Walker. How are you today, sir?
Good. Very productive day.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know. We had a busy day on the site. And, of course, the consulting editor for Biff Bam Pop, Mr. JP Falavalina. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to be here again.
Oh, it's always good to be with you, my friend. Now, before we get into everything Halloween, let's just do this really quick off the top because if you're a comic book geek like at least I am, and a couple of people on the panel tonight are, today was a really freaking huge day because Marvel Comics announced their slate up until 2019, and yeah, pretty crazy. Glenn, you I don't know if you've got it in front of you, but off the top of your head, what were the big notable things?
Well, we know about Ant-Man. That's in July of 15, and I think Avengers is May of 15.
May 1st, I think. May 4th.
Yeah. What they announced was Captain America: Civil War in May of 2016. Doctor Strange. Still uncast, but we're hoping for Benedict Cumberbatch. That's in November of 2016.
Hold on a second, Glenn. JP, what are you giggling at?
So there's all these different rumors about who's going to be Doctor Strange, and Benedict Cumberbatch comes on up, and I think either you or Glenn posted on the Biff Bam Pop Facebook site today, and there was just like comments from women, just like, yes, let's have this.
I can't see him hanging on for more than one movie, though.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Although he was on the Glenn Norton show on BBC, and he was asked a couple of questions, and there were 2 questions that he was asked, and one of them was, "Are you going to be in the next Star Trek movie?" And he very clearly said no comment. So you never know. He could be into doing these franchises. There's lots of money involved. Okay, Glenn, quick, keep going with what's coming.
May 2017, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. In July of 2017, Thor Ragnarok. In November of 2017, I'm very psyched about this, Black Panther.
Yeah.
Avengers Infinity War Part 1 in May of 2018, followed in July by Captain Marvel, that's the Carol Danvers character, formerly Ms. Marvel. Inhumans are coming in November of 2018, and in May of 2019, wow, that seems so far away, we have Avengers Infinity War Part 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it? So I'm going to ask you guys, because you know what, we've got about 5 years to talk about this stuff. So, and I want to talk Halloween tonight. But I just want to go and ask all you guys, and it's like, you don't have to be, you know, an expert on any of this stuff, but that's a lot of comic book movies. And you've got, like, all the DC guys coming out with, you know, there's a lot of DC movies coming out, and it's like, is that too much? Is it too many, or do you think if quality wins out, then it doesn't matter if it's a comic book movie or not? Marie, what do you think?
I think if the quality is good, people are going to enjoy the movies. It doesn't matter how many are coming out, as long as they're good. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I didn't know too much about the comic book, but I truly enjoyed the movie. So when I heard there was a part 2, I was like, good, because it was a good movie. It was written well, and so it doesn't matter how many of them come, as long as they're good, and we don't start seeing the trend where the first one's good and then it goes downhill, you know. So
yeah, agreed. JP, what do you think, man?
I think that I'm really happy for Peter Jackson, because they got through his Lord of the Rings series of films, because there's no room for another one over the next 5-6 years. There's just so many comic book films coming out. It was a mind blower today. But Marie's right. As long as these movies are good, and Marvel and Disney are firing on all cylinders here, so there's no reason to believe they'd be anything but good. Yeah, just bring them on. Keep bringing them. We'll go see them if they're good.
Amanda, are you going to go out and see any of these comic book films? Any appeal at all with more Avengers and Captain America and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a couple of years behind in terms of the superhero movies, the comic book movies. I don't really know how that happened, but yeah, I'll definitely be catching up. I was pretty excited to hear the news. I mean, I'll see anything in the theaters, and if it's big and epic, and you know, I'm there.
Nice. And Glenn, too many, not enough, just enough to fill your cup, my friend?
I think I'm going to agree with what's already been said, in that as long as the quality is there, they'll be good. But I read something disturbing on Facebook about how in 2015, the amount of comic book movies will double the next year, and double again the year after that, and double again in 2018. I hope it holds up. We might run into a glut. I'm afraid of that. I really am. But I mean, I'm looking forward to everything we've listed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all those movies. I can probably take a pass on the DC ones as a whole. But anyway, so that's it. That's our comic talk for this week. Because you see, for anyone watching,
Straight face there for too long.
What was that, brother?
I couldn't keep a straight face for too long there.
I know you couldn't. See, for anyone watching for the first time, JP and I have very different opinions on DC versus Marvel. Anyway, that's a way geekier conversation for tonight. Instead, let's be horror geeks and talk about the fact that we've got Halloween coming up in a couple days, and throughout the month of October, we've had 31 days of horror happening at biffbampop.com, and it's been great. I have to tell you guys, all you guys have contributed, and you guys have all delivered really interesting articles on the movies that you love, that I happen to love a lot of them too. So first of all, thanks to all of you for working your arses off and giving us something to talk about. So nicely done. But so what I wanted to talk about tonight was, every year, I think a lot of people, especially if you're a horror fan, there's that one movie that kind of sums up the season for you that you might try and catch. You know, maybe time doesn't work out and you don't get a chance to see that one particular movie that you love. But I wanted to ask each of you, what is that one particular horror movie for you that kind of sums up Halloween, and that you know October's coming and it's like, I gotta check this out. It's kind of like my my yearly ritual. And I mean, I'll get it started because I will. And for me, over the past couple of years, it's been House of a Thousand Corpses by Rob Zombie. It's one of those films that apparently I liked when I saw it. I don't remember liking it, but the buddy that I was with has told me for years that I really liked it. I don't remember it that way. But over the last couple of years, I've watched it every year, and it's really funny, and it's really scary, and it's really like a complete trip if you're in that frame of mind. And I've showed it to a couple. I had like a guys get together a couple years ago, and I thought, oh well, let's watch House of a Thousand Corpses and let's see if you guys are gonna love it. And about half of them paid attention, then the other half just freaking hated it. And I interviewed Rob Zombie, I guess, last year for Lords of Salem, and he said when House of a Thousand Corpses came out, people hated that movie at the time, but a little over 10 years later, people consider it a classic now. And for me, it's a classic. For me, it's one of those movies that I like to put on every year and just kind of, take a trip. But Glenn, what about you? What's your go-to for Halloween?
It tends to be some of the stuff I've written about on the site. The original Cat People movies I like. The Haunting, Curse of the Demon, the traditional stuff, Dracula, Frankenstein. I also like White Zombie as a favorite with Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi, right.
Yeah. On the fun side, I kind of like Disney a couple years ago did Hocus Pocus with Kathy Najimy and Bette Midler. I like that. I got a soft spot for It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh my God, me too.
I was in the play. I played Linus in 3rd grade, so it's a soft spot in my heart for that one. But that's the one that says Halloween to me. The others are just horror that I like. That one says Halloween.
Do any of you guys remember the Garfield Halloween special from the 80s? Where
my daughter loves that.
There you go. That's great. Why does your daughter love that one? What do you think about it, Amanda?
I like it, but I mean, I've watched it with her probably 200 times now, so I like it a little bit less. Yeah, she loves it. She'll watch it all year.
How did she find it? Because I can't find it anywhere.
I got her like a DVD set when she was really little, and it had all the different holiday specials, the Garfield specials, and she loves all of them. She watched them over and over and over and over. So yeah, they're suddenly lost for some reason. I don't know how that happened.
Man, I love that. And to your point, Glenn, the Great Pumpkin, I think that's almost the definitive Halloween experience. JP, what about for you? What's your seasonal go-to?
Yeah, I don't know if there was really one particular go-to, Andrew. There's a bunch I go to regularly though. At least once a year, I'll go back to one of these particular films, and that would be either The Exorcist, which is a film that scares me and I adore, and then John Carpenter's The Thing is a film that I go back to regularly, and I love that the mix of the horror and the sci-fi and being in isolated the Antarctic there. I love that film a lot. The last couple of years, though, it's been, we've got the After Dark Film Festival here in Toronto, which just wrapped up last week. And the last couple of years, I've gone to a couple of films through that particular festival. And it's been Rec that I got on into the last 2 years, the Rec series and the mythology behind it. And I think earlier this year, that film series just kind of wrapped up, thankfully, with Rec 4 Apocalypse, which wasn't all that enjoyable. But the first 2 films in that series are absolutely fantastic, and I love them.
Marie, what about you? What's your go-to?
My go-to is, I think, The Thing, that the original one, if I can watch it, and then the newer version, The Thing. But I would say my favorite, if I can get to see it, is with Ripley, Alien, the first one, Alien. To me, that was so scary, and it still is.
Does it hold up for repeated viewings for you?
Oh, yeah. I have the whole set, and it's funny, because when my grandsons sleep over, they will want to watch the Alien, and we'll like, stay up all night and watch movies. when they're all over at the same time. But that first one is my favorite because you had no idea what to expect.
Let me ask you a question because you're a mom and you're a grandma too, and Amanda's a mom and I'm a dad, and so I vividly remember being like maybe 5 or 6 years old and watching The Shining with my dad in the middle of the day on a Sunday. Well, see, Glenn, you're making that face, and you know, I turned out reasonably okay, but
okay, I'm in the same situation. I watched horror from way little,
Right.
but I'm just picturing you at 5 or 6 watching The Shining, and that's just wow.
it was a horrible mistake. It was you know, these days if it happened, you know, like they would like bring Dad down to like, you know, the station and say, you know, this is some form of child abuse. But back then, and I you know, I feel like for me growing up that, you know, I was exposed to a ton of horror at a really early age, and like I said, I think I turned out okay. That being said, there's no freaking way I'd be showing my daughter any of the stuff that I watched when I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
What about you, Marie? Like, how did it go? I mean, I'm going to assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but were you a horror fan as a mom?
Yes, and as a child too, because my father had the only television in the street, so everybody would come over our house to watch television because I'm older than you guys. And my first scary show, and they let me watch it, sort of, I kind of snuck down steps, was Lights Out. It was an old show. A man had a candle. You remember, you know what I'm talking about, Glenn?
I know Lights Out.
Scary as hell. Scary as hell. But I grew up loving scary stories, and my daughter watched them with me. You know, we would watch scary stories together. And my grandsons, and I think, like, I wouldn't let them watch a slasher films or anything, but I think a good scary movie like Frankenstein or the werewolf and all that, you have to remember, in the old days, people used to tell fables to, like, set the tone of, this can happen to you if you're not careful, you know, never get off the road, stay on the trail. So they were used as fables, and so to me, if it's not overly bloody, and if you're there explaining to the child what's going on, I think by the time they're around 8 years old, I think they're fine handling scary movies, and you know what? It prepares them that life is not all sweetness and, you know, gumdrops, because it isn't, and that there are some dangerous people out there.
It's you know, I often thought that my dad was trying to use The Shining as a fable, but I'm not exactly sure what the fable of The Shining was. Amanda, what about you? You're a mom. How do you know when it's a good time for your kid to watch horror stuff?
Oh man, well, I wouldn't let her near anything that I watch now or that I watched then. Not a chance. I can't believe what I was allowed to watch as a kid. No, I keep her well away from it. I mean, she likes the kid Halloween movies, you know, Nightmare Before Christmas, Hotel Transylvania, that type of thing, but no, she's not allowed near any of my favorites.
Well, and you talked about it in one of your pieces, The People Under the Stairs. You grew up watching that, right?
Oh, yeah. No, my mom let me watch anything. And my dad didn't let me watch anything, so I kind of really milked that for what it was worth when I was with my mom. So I watched a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have, but, you know, what can you do?
JP, what was the first? What was the first film that you can recall being a kid and thinking, man, this is kind of intense. Maybe I shouldn't be watching this.
We used to get together, so I was about 10 or 11 years of age, and the guys down here on the street were all within a couple of 8 years of age of each other. during the summer, while school was off, we used to get downstairs in each other's basements and watch these movies that we had rented at the local video store. So a VHS cassette of Nightmare on Elm Street, or Friday the 13th, or some movie that I still remember that was horrible. Like, you knew it when you were 10 years old that this was, there's scary scenes, but it was horrible. Was The Prey. I remember that one. It was so bad. But that's what we used to do. We used to get down to the basement, close the drapes of the windows, put pillows sometimes in the windows to make it a little bit darker. And we used to get together communally and watch these movies all summer long for about 3 or 4 years or so, when, around between 9, 10, 11, 12 years of age. And that communal aspect sort of has even stayed with me to today. Where I get together with my buddies now, Andrew, we get together with groups, and when we go to see films like Paranormal Activity and those frights, sharing them and then talking about those films afterwards is what I find fun. There's the odd movie that I still watch on my own, like The Exorcist I mentioned before. But every time I'm going to the theater now, it's with a group of friends and having that communal scare.
Well, it's funny you brought up Paranormal Activity, and it was funny because we went to see that. I think we were one of the first groups to see that as they were getting those screenings going out. I think it was your idea, and I remember walking out of it and saying, "This wasn't so scary. I wasn't too scared." And you were the only guy that thought it was really good and really scary, and then that night I had some pretty wicked nightmares, and I had to fess up to you the next day that you were right and I was wrong.
Yeah, I had a good laugh about that. I slept pretty good that night. I thought it was a great film, but I remember walking on out, you and the other guys that we were with all thought, that wasn't all that great of a flick, and then sort of the tide kind of turned. People thought about it a little more, or affected them later on maybe, and it's kind of gone down as like it's a cult classic now.
You know what the test of a horror movie like that is? Walking home from the theater in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You might not have been afraid in the theater. You're afraid coming home. Yeah. So what is it? There are no atheists in a foxhole?
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
I knew a guy that was so scared of after Paranormal Activity that he had to make his wife stand outside the washroom while he got up in the middle of the night. I'm not naming any name, but I knew a guy.
Yeah.
Let me throw out a couple horror films. I'm just going to throw out the titles, and then I'll go to each of you. And I want to know what you guys think of these particular films. And some of them we wrote about this year. And the first one, it's one that Marie wrote about, and I think it went up today. It either went up today or yesterday. But to me, it's one of the all-time classics, and it's a classic that doesn't rely on blood or violence. It's psychological, and if you're religious, it's a little bit of like religious fear as well. And that's Rosemary's Baby. And Marie, why did you choose that to write about for 31 Days of Horror?
I think when the film came out and I first watched it, anything with the devil in it or demons is very scary to me because, I do ghost investigations. But I think why that movie attracted me, because, first of all, I like Mia Farrow. We were watching her on TV at the time, Peyton Place. But the fact that this young girl goes into this apartment building with all these neighbors who turn out to be using her, like she's like innocent, and they're actually in control of her body, and her husband betrays her. That always bothered me, that they brought about this child. Her to give birth to the demon or to Satan himself. And to me that was very frightening because you're going away to a big city, you're with strangers, you're hoping that they're looking out for you, and here they're up to no good. And I think just the fact that she was tricked into it by someone she trusted the most, her husband. So that was kind of scary.
Yeah, I find that out of a lot of the ones that we wrote about this year, that one, when I saw that you're doing that really resonated for me. Mia Farrow is so great in that film as well.
Right.
Did anybody on this group actually watch the remake that Zoe Saldana did?
No.
It's terrible.
I'm glad I didn't watch it then. No.
Yeah,
Why was it so bad, man? Was it just predictability? What was it?
It was badly done, badly performed. I hate to say that about Zoe Saldana. I love her, but I think it was a mistake to take it out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
the Dakota, New York, that's a character in the original movie.
Right.
It was just badly done. It was long and drawn out. I would think when you're remaking something where everyone knows what's going to happen, you might throw in a surprise or two. Or
Right.
really, there's no reason to remake it. I really dislike the remake quite a bit.
I'm glad I skipped it. Okay, JP.
You're lucky.
Yeah, JP. You've got one horror film that you have to recommend to someone. Your personal choice that you would recommend. Go.
I mentioned it already, and it's The Exorcist. I wrote about that in 31 Days of Horror last year, and that's for me. That's the that's the pinnacle of horror. And being raised in a Roman Catholic family, it's got it's not even an undertone. It's right there. It's right there, front and center. That's the one that whether it's the head turning around on a swivel, which is a little bit hokey in my mind. I've heard of occurrences of exorcisms, not too far. It's not even arm's length. So it's definitely an affecting movie for some of the things that I know of or that I've encountered, and that's what I would recommend, of course, to anybody. And most people have already seen it, so.
Amanda, what about you? One movie to recommend to people. One horror movie that you love that people have to see. Maybe it can be anything.
Oh, man. Well, I'm a huge horror junkie, so this is a tough question. And I'm surprised to hear myself say this, actually. But the first thing that came to my mind was actually Pet Sematary. And I think that's because that movie scared me more than anything ever the first time that I saw it. And it still does. The whole scene with the sister, I still run away out of the living room every time I watch that movie every year, and I haven't seen that scene in probably 20 years. I just will not watch it. Can't do it. So if someone wants to be scared, I'd probably throw that one at them, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it scares
No, that's a
me
pretty
every
scary
time.
movie.
Yeah.
Now,
Terrifying.
did you ever see the second one?
I did. Not as many times as the first, because or as obviously, but yeah, I've seen it, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No, I wouldn't recommend that one to anyone either. Edward Furlong is not happy to have that one in his CV. Glenn, what about you, brother? What the one movie?
Well, I'm going to go with scary rather than recommend. I would say Nosferatu, the original.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I can't even watch it. It scares me that much. I think about the imagery from that movie, and I'm not sleeping that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glenn, did you see Shadow of the Vampire with Willem Dafoe?
Yeah, it didn't bother me. Neither did the remake of Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski. Neither did Salem's Lot. So it's not the imagery. I think it's Max Schreck.
Yeah.
And I think it's the use of shadow, the whole German expressionism thing. It's a scary flick.
Marie, the one movie.
Well, I'll have to go with JP. I saw The Exorcist once in 1972, and I will not watch it on TV. I can't watch it. It scared the hell out of me. So, and Salem's Lot, but like I said, the Alien, that was pretty scary for me. And I like sci-fi, but that shock of that creature, that was Alien and The Exorcist are the two I would say. Okay, they're scary.
I didn't see The Exorcist until I was in my 20s, and I saw the director's cut, and that spider walk down the stairs.
Yes.
I was in a theater, and the the entire theater went. It was pretty shocking.
Yeah.
As for me, I like to say The Shining. To me, The Shining is the greatest horror film ever made. I can watch that time and time again. Though I did talk to someone recently who said that they watched it for the first time and they thought it was boring, and I kind of get that too. If you've been hearing about this really legendary film and you're not watching it until you're in your freaking 40s, yeah, you might find it a little boring. But for me, it's The Shining all the way.
Yeah, I don't think it would ever be boring, The Shining.
No, it's a freaking scary movie, man.
Yeah.
And what's he doing in that picture? So many questions, and not enough time. Because that brings us to the end of the Halloween edition of the Biff Bam Popcast. Once again, brought to us by Roof Oasis, by our steampunk granny, our favorite lady, Ms. Marie Gilbert.
Where can we get that book?
Yeah, where can we find it, Marie?
On Amazon.com, and it's on a Kindle edition too.
All right, and what's coming next from you?
Saving Solanda. So the second book's going to take us between the two worlds, back and forth. So we'll be jumping back and forth from Earth to Solanda and watching the battle taking place at the same time. They're all trying to get together and fight this evil man and his demons. So
Awesome.
It's going to be good.
We'll talk about it more once we can get it into our hands. And I want to thank you guys once again for being kick-ass this October. You guys did awesome work, and I can tell by how many people have been visiting the site and reading our site every day that people are digging it too. So thanks to all you guys, Amanda Blue, Glenn Walker, Marie Gilbert, JP Falvalita. Thanks for everything, and I think we'll do another Biff Bam Popcast in a couple of weeks because I got a nice big screen now, and I'm like high on like espresso cookies, so I feel like I can do it late at night, and it's all good. Until then, I'm Andy Burns, editor-in-chief of BiffBamPop.com. You can find us on the Facebook at BBP Canada, facebook.com/BBP Canada. You can find us on Twitter at BiffBamPop, and that's all we've got for you. So we'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.
May trick or treat.
Bye. Bye.
Trick or treat.